You know, now I'm having this nightmare that she's going to go to school and she'll be like surrounded with kids and they'll be going, well, look what we've got here. No meat.
On November 24th, 1983, Thanksgiving night, Jim Carrey walked onto Johnny Carson's stage for the very first time, and within minutes, the most unflappable host in the history of American late-night television reportedly turned to those nearby and said, "I don't know what to do."
Kermit the Frog here, Thank you, it's great to be here.
I've spent time going back through the documented record of that night, the TV guide write-ups, the episode logs, the surviving clips, and what I found is that most people who talk about this moment get the context completely wrong. They reach for the feel-good discovery story, but it was something rarer and more specific than that, and this is what actually happened. Hey, if you are still watching and like Johnny Carson, make sure to subscribe and comment down your favorite moment from The Tonight Show. Okay, so what almost nobody remembers is just how unknown Jim Carrey really was that night.
This young man is a young impressionist from Toronto and a little bit different. And he's going to be starring in a new series for NBC this January called The Duck Factory. He's also been in Hollywood about 10 months and created quite a bit of excitement. This is his first appearance on American television. Would you welcome Jim Carrey?
Here is a specific fact that almost no retrospective leads with. Jim Carrey was born on January 17th, 1962, which means on the night of his Tonight Show debut, November 24th, 1983, Carrey had been alive for exactly 21 years and 10 months. No major film credit sat on his resume. No Hollywood profile preceded him. In living color, the Fox sketch series that would eventually make Carrey a household name wouldn't launch until 1990, 7 full years away. By every measurable industry standard, Jim Carrey walked into NBC studios that Thanksgiving night as an unknown. And yet NBC placed him on the biggest late-night stage in America on a holiday night when the country was watching.
My name is Jim Carrey. I'd like to do some impressions for you tonight, if you'll just give me a minute.
Carson's producers didn't book unknowns out of charity, which meant someone in that building had seen Jim Carrey perform and made a deliberate call that this young man was ready for The Tonight Show, even if American audiences weren't ready for him yet.
30 years ago today, I was attacked by a dog. I was standing in the street screaming, trying to get the vicious dog off my leg.
The season 22 episode also featured actor Robert Blake and sports film producer Bud Greenspan. Solid and respectable bookings, and then Carrey stepped up.
You know, I think I've probably spent my entire life staring in the mirror. I have. But I haven't been staring at me. I've been staring at Leonid Brezhnev.
According to TV Guide's documented write-up of that episode, he launched into a stand-up set built entirely around impressions, starting with Elvis Presley, moving through Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, and a sweep of film and television personalities.
Michael Landon smiling.
And closing the entire routine with Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy.
Kermit the Frog here, Thank you, it's great to be here.
Kermit the Frog on a national television debut on Thanksgiving night.
I'd like to sing a song that came out in 1979. It was a big hit for me. And here to sing it with me, let's hear it for that hug-a-hug.
That ending wasn't a miscalculation, and it wasn't an accident. It was the choice of a performer who had already decided the room would adjust to him, not the other way around.
My love! My beloved Kermit! You mean toi et moi? I'm going to sing a song together! Alone?
That is not the choice of a comedian who came out there to play it safe. That is the choice of someone who decided consciously that he would rather be completely himself than dilute what he was to fit the room.
Bruce Dern.
Most first-time Tonight Show guests in 1983 came out polished, rehearsed, and careful. Carrey came out like he'd already decided the room was going to adjust to him.
Jim Carrey.
Sharp Carson viewers would have caught something else buried in that Elvis impression. Back in 1977, 6 years before Carrey's debut, Andy Kaufman had performed his own Elvis on that same Tonight Show stage. And the segment became one of the most talked about moments of that entire decade.
Thank you very much.
Carrey, consciously or by instinct, was entering a lineage. Two entirely different comedians using the same stage to do the same thing. Refused to make the expected choice. TV Guide's write-up of the November 24th episode puts it plainly. Carrey's impressions floored the crowd. Not warmed them, floored them.
Charles Bronson.
Carson sat behind his desk, and something happened to his famous poker face. And this is where the story shifts. I used to think Carson losing it on air was just a figure of speech, an exaggeration that fans used to describe any moment when he smiled more than usual. Then I went back and actually looked at the documented record of how rarely it happened, and I revised that opinion completely. Here's the contrarian reality that most Carson retrospectives will not tell you directly. Across 30 years of hosting The Tonight Show, from 1962 to May 22, 1992, the number of occasions where Carson visibly, uncontrollably broke composure on air is genuinely small. Not just rare. Small. The moments still cited today, George Carlin catching him off guard, Robin Williams going somewhere completely unscripted, stand out precisely because they exist against 30 years of professional restraint. Carson came from the discipline of stage magic, from an era when a host's unshakable control wasn't a style choice, but a professional obligation. When someone cracked that composure, it wasn't a minor thing. It was a signal. It meant the person on the other side of that desk had done something Carson genuinely could not predict, prepare for, or contain. On November 24th, 1983, Jim Carrey did exactly that.
Clint Eastwood.
Accounts of that evening, drawn from surviving footage, later retrospectives, and documented fan record, describe what one source calls a full-scale comedy cyclone. Carrey moved through impressions and physical bits with a velocity that made the segment feel less like a scheduled television appearance and more like something that had gotten loose inside the studio.
Jack Nicholson.
Carson wore what observers consistently describe as a bemused, genuinely delighted smile, not the polished half grin he deployed for competent but unremarkable guests, but unguarded amusement from a man who could not predict what was coming next.
You have unusual faces. Anything new I haven't seen, or?
Yeah, well, actually, I have some, yeah. It's not like we didn't plan it, but,
And that's when the line reportedly came. Fan accounts have circulated it for decades, though it remains unverified lore rather than on-record transcript. Carson muttered to those nearby, "I don't know what to do." Whether those were his precise words, the underlying reality holds across every account of that evening. Jim Carrey had gotten ahead of Johnny Carson, and Carson couldn't find his way back to the front.
this is a scene from Poltergeist.
Most Tonight Show guests in 1983 arrived with the same plan: a rehearsed anecdote, a punchline, then a pivot back to the host, returning control to Carson like a baton handoff. In my experience watching archival late-night footage, that structure repeats almost without exception. Guest after guest, night after night, handing the wheel back to Carson on cue.
You didn't every comic, they dream on couches all across America. People are, comics are sitting there. Oh yeah, he asked me over. Woo!
Carrey arrived with what seemed like 17 plans and executed all of them simultaneously, which meant Carson, the man who always drove, found himself riding passenger. By every surviving account, Carson loved every second of it. But here's the thing that most coverage skips entirely: the contrast between Carson's controlled, conversational method and Carrey's anarchic, physical velocity wasn't just a stylistic difference. In living color, the show that would define Carrey's early fame was still 7 years away, and yet the fast-paced, unpredictable energy that would come to define an entire decade of American comedy was already fully formed inside Jim Carrey on November 24th, 1983. Carson was watching the future arrive in real time, and he was grinning at it. 8 years later, something happened that almost nobody connects back to that first night. The October 30th, 1991 return appearance receives far less attention than the 1983 debut, and that oversight misses something worth sitting with.
I had forgotten, I just mentioned, your first time on this show on American television was 1983. And somebody said, and you didn't come over afterwards.
No, I was devastated by that.
And somebody said you were devastated because I guess that was a sign of...
By October 1991, Jim Carrey occupied an entirely different position in American entertainment. In Living Color had launched on Fox in 1990 and was, 3 seasons in, a genuine cultural force, with Carrey as one of its central engines. The show had introduced him to a generation of viewers who weren't watching late-night television back in 1983. Which meant the man who returned to The Tonight Show that October night shared the bill with magician Harry Anderson and the jazz outfit Foreplay as a recognizable star, not an unknown.
So after they finished the stand-up...
Yeah, you gave me one of these,
yeah,
and I went straight to the bathtub.
Yeah. Some comedian actually told me once he didn't even give me one of these. When he walked off and says, he didn't give me it.
Surviving video clips from that appearance show Carrey doing impressions of Kevin Bacon and cartoon characters. The same elastic instinct, the same refusal to be contained, now with a larger following watching.
Well, I have a really mean Kevin Bacon impression, but I don't know if we should do that or not. Okay. Count, it's not my fault, man.
What almost no coverage frames correctly is the timeline surrounding that October 30th taping. Carson had fewer than 7 months left on that stage. The retirement announcement and final broadcast would come on May 22nd, 1992, closing out 30 years of television history. The October 1991 taping was, without either man knowing it, one of the last times Jim Carrey and Johnny Carson would share that room. Neither of them knew it.
Kevin Bacon is Batman!
Cool.
That is cool, I know.
That's cool.
I find something genuinely moving about that timeline when I sit with it. 2 appearances, 8 years apart. A young man nobody knew in 1983 and a confirmed star in 1991. And Carson, at both ends of that window, responding with the same unguarded delight.
My impression of Wile E. Coyote walking away from a bad fall.
A man watching the beginning of a legendary career while standing at the very end of his own. Carson was winding down 30 years. Carrey was fewer than 3 years away from the 1994 releases that would make him globally famous.
Kids will start to gather
And say, do the so-and-so.
Yeah, do that. Do that face you do, man. No, come on, man. Hey, guys, look at this. Look at the thing, the face that makes everyone want to throw up. Come on, man.
The two appearances together bracket one of the most significant transitions in American entertainment history, and Carson was present for both ends of it.
No, go. Now, say pee-pee. T-T? No, not T-T, pee-pee!
And this is where most retellings get the story wrong. Most videos about this moment will tell you the Carson reaction mattered because it validated Carrey's talent. I disagree with that framing, and here's why it matters. Carrey didn't need Carson's validation. What happened on November 24th, 1983 wasn't a gatekeeper stamping a passport. Carson's Tonight Show ran from 1962 to May 22nd, 1992. And across those 30 years, it functioned as the most important proving ground in American entertainment. The host's visible approval carried genuine weight, not because Carson wielded gatekeeping power arbitrarily, but because he had seen everything and remained genuinely difficult to surprise. When his composure cracked, something had reached him that he could not have anticipated, and that was not a frequent occurrence. The contrarian point worth pushing back on hardest is the idea that what Carrey did was risky. The mainstream framing treats Carrey's Muppet-ending, Brezhnev impression, high-velocity debut as a gamble that paid off. That gets it exactly backwards. Carrey wasn't gambling. He was the only person in that building who was absolutely certain of exactly what he was doing. The risk sat entirely on everyone else's side. On Carson's producers, who booked him. On Carson himself, who had to respond in real time to something genuinely unscripted. On an audience that had no frame of reference for what they were watching. Carrey arrived certain. The room scrambled to catch up. That's not a gamble. That's a performer operating at a level of conviction that the people around him simply hadn't encountered before. The durability of the November 24th, 1983 footage confirms it. Those clips pull millions of views online today, not on nostalgia alone, but because the footage holds up. Viewers encountering those clips for the first time have the same reaction the studio audience had on Thanksgiving night, 1983. Genuine, caught-off-guard laughter. The moment hasn't aged into a relic. It still plays like a live wire. And that's the real measure of what happened on that stage. Not that Carson approved, but that the approval was real, involuntary, and impossible to manufacture from a man who had spent 30 years learning to give away nothing. Jim Carrey's 1994 film run rewrote his public story so completely that most viewers who know Carrey from those years have never seen the November 24th, 1983 Tonight Show episode. They have never seen the 21-year-old doing Brezhnev and Kermit on Thanksgiving night, in front of a studio audience that had no idea what was about to happen to them. That version of Jim Carrey is the one worth knowing, because that version reveals who he actually was before the world decided who he was. Johnny Carson passed in 2005. The Tonight Show he built and presided over for 30 years closed on May 22, 1992. What Carson left behind beyond the television institution itself were the specific and documented nights when something unpredictable broke through his professional surface. The occasions when the most composed host in American late-night history simply could not hold the line. The Carrey segment from November 24th, 1983 belongs in that company. Not because of what it predicted about Carrey's career, but because of what it revealed about Carson. A man who had watched 30 years of the finest performers in the world cross through his studio, and who still, on a Thanksgiving night, found himself sitting behind that desk, unable to keep a straight face. He reportedly muttered that he didn't know what to do. And in that unguarded moment, the most composed host in the history of American late-night television told everyone watching exactly what kind of talent had just walked into the room. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe if you have always loved Johnny Carson Show.